I really love these two right here. The Earthwise Herbal, Volume 1 and 2. I'm treating these like one book. Volume 1 is Old World Medicinal Plants. Volume 2, New World Medicinal Plants. This basically covers your European Materia, Medica. A lot of the Unani Tib herbs too are going to be in here. This is pretty much herbs of North America. Some of you might know I've been a student of Matthew Wood for a very long time. I really love Matthew's work. And what I like about these books here, organization is just alphabetical. His organization is very nice. So he organizes it by the monographs, right? He gives the taste of the herb, the tissue states that herb is indicated for. So here I just opened up to Eschscholzia californica. That would be California poppy. He gives it a little bit of a description of the herb at first. And then he goes into, well, that's not a very good example. Let me find something that's got a little bit of a bigger description here. Let's go wild yam. I'm sure he's got a little more. Yeah. So wild yam. Okay. So it begins with his full kind of a little bit of the history. And then he goes into really his description of how that herb is used therapeutically. Now, Matthew's really neat because, I mean, the guy is a scholar. He really, really knows his history. He has studied the old medical traditions of Western medicine quite extensively. So he really has a knowledge of the history of how these herbs have been used. So a lot of these books have quotes from old doctors, from the Thomsonian era, the physiomedicalist era, the eclectic era, different root doctors, local knowledge from people here in North America, as well as, traditionally for Volume 1, more of the European tradition. So that's what I like. I mean, he's quoting Dioscorides and Pliny and Hippocrates and Paracelsus. And, this one right here has quotes from John William Fife. He quotes Ellingwood. He quotes, Felter. He quotes Cook. He quotes, right? So he's really, and he's giving his own knowledge and expertise of these plants as well, his own clinical experience, which I really appreciate. Now, one of the things I love about the way Matthew teaches herbs is he's very pattern oriented, much like myself. So he really weaves together not just what the plant does and not just what types of diseases it treats, but the pattern, like what the constellation of symptoms is in the person, that you could see the deeper interconnections of how to use the herb effectively. So he's got this big, great description here. This is 2 pages on wild yam. And he really unites the taste, the actions, the tissue states, and then the patterns. And then he kind of gives these nice summaries after the description. So he's got a couple pages on wild yam, then the taste, right? Sweet, earthen, acrid, moist. So the taste typically has the energetics there too. Tissue state. So what tissue state is this herb indicated for? So here he's mentioning atrophy and constriction or spasm. And then there's this great section here that I love, and this is one of the reasons why I love these books so much, is the specific indications. And these are typically being pulled from the homeopathic indications, the eclectic indications, and just what do you look for in terms of the properties of this herb? What do you look for in a person that's going to point towards this plant in this kind of quick reference bullet format, which I find very, very useful. So the specific indications also have sub-organizations. So constitution, complexion, characteristic symptoms. So for example, with wild yam, and he puts in italics the really important ones. So for wild yam, the constitutional characteristic symptoms: thin, undernourished people with spasms in the intestines, poor assimilation through the small intestine, decalcification. And then he says also the tongue is usually coated, skin yellow and dry, conjunctiva more or less yellow. There'll be some liver symptoms there. And then it goes through organ specific indications by organ system. So for example, respiration, asthma, whooping cough, bronchitis. And I'm not going to get through all these because there's a lot. Digestion, liver, gallbladder. spasmodic hiccup, abdominal distension and gas, belly muscles tender and contracted, abdominal muscles contracted, constant pain, colic, sharp, cutting pains. See those words? Those are all super, super useful words, like colic, sharp, cutting pains in the gallbladder, abdomen, or ovaries, relieved by pressure, by supporting the abdomen, by drinking, worse from eating. Man, all of those indications are really, really helpful because it's not just abdominal pain. It's like, what type of abdominal pain? What's the nature of the pain? Well, in this case, it would be sharp cutting pain. Relieved by pressure. So relieved by pressing down on it. Very useful. Bowel spasm. Many times the pain extends through the body. Abdominal cramping, uterine cramping, gallstone colic, nausea of pregnancy. There's many more. Female reproductive dysmenorrhea due to ovarian neuralgia. Severe menstrual colic, menopausal women with hip joint disease. Muscular and skeletal hip joint deterioration, cannot find a comfortable position to lie in, tossing and turning at night. Then he goes into preparations and dosage, cautions, any cautionary stuff, and then any literature, basically his references where he's pulling the information from. Super, super useful monographs. Love these monographs. And then what's cool, Earthwise Herbal, is Matthew is kind of a genius in his way because it's all cross-referencing systems. So it also comes down to this one, the Earthwise Herbal Repertory. So what's cool about this repertory, so this is not designed to teach you the herbs per se. This is a reference guide. So what this is organized by, he has energetics, constitutions or tissue states, and then organ systems, and then chronic conditions, and then acute conditions. So for example, if we were to go to 6 tissue states under energetics, 109, I'll open right to that. How about that? So he's giving information about that tissue state, and then he will give a list of the herbs, recommended herbs for cold. Angelica archangelica, warming, stimulating, dries water, generates oil. Artemisia absinthium, warming, stimulating, softening, anthelmintic. So just quick little things, right? It's a reference tool. Now the energetics ones are a little more, let's go nose, sinuses, upper respiratory. So 162. This is because these books all are cross-linking. So the way I use Matthew's system is, you think of the person that's got a problem in a certain organ system. You go to that organ system in your repertory. If you're having a hard time figuring out, you're like, there's an issue in the nose, sinuses, and respiratory tract. Then under here, he's got specific symptoms: nosebleeds, nasal polyps, allergies, adenitis, initial twinge of a head cold, rhinitis, sinusitis, head cold, and then a formulary. Okay, so then say you're working with someone with sinusitis, rhinitis, head cold. Now the way this works is this is just a big list of remedies. It's all it is a list with a couple specific indications in parentheses, and then the really, really like his favorites or his ones that he deems great tend to be in all caps. So for example, Achillea, hot tea. Allium cepa, runny nose with excoriated nostrils. Althea, hoarseness, laryngitis with head cold. Anemopsis, that would be Anemopsis californica. Yerba manza, swelling and congestion of nose, subacute with thick mucus. Andrographis, nasal congestion, cough, sore throat, muscle stiffness, fever. Asclepius, snuffles in children. Ganoderma, allergic, acute, subacute. Euphrasia, sniffles in children, frontal sinus infection. Mentha piperita, as inhalation, hot tea is diaphoretic, relaxing, cooling. Phytolacca, plantago, mucolytic, postnasal drip, feeling of string hanging down the throat. So he'll give you these little specific indications. Some of them will just list the herb. Some of them will give you little specifics. So what that does is you kind of look through these, okay, what are the herbs that kind of stand out to me? And then as you go through that repertory, you can look the specific herbs up here. So this is basically your cross-referencing database. You use your repertory to kind of compile your list of herbs that you would consider for this person. And then you can look them up to get more details in the main Materia Medicas there. So that's Matthew's system. These 3 books, Earthwise Herbal Repertory, and then Earthwise Herbals volumes 1 and 2. These 3 books, some of my favorite clinical Materia Medicas. I really like them.